You don't have it? No, just post it in the debate chat box. It's called debate chat box just above the room. Post it in that room. Post it in there. Because, you know, flat earthers, we're just looking for measurements or science or anything to prove we're on this ball, Larry. You see? Obviously, we're told these things, and it's very hard to believe without evidence. Now, you're saying there is evidence of a triangle more than 180. That is something we must see, Larry. We must see that. If that is real. Larry, you still here?
You know, this is just so pointless because the triangulation network of the major continents is well documented.
Okay, yeah, it's well documented.
This is all pointless now that you ask for evidence.
Hold on, he said it's well documented. I'm listening. Go on, well documented. Yeah.
It's well documented, and by the Ordnance Survey UK being premier in the area triangles, and yeah, the 1 arcsecond per 75 square miles has been in all triangulation of continent-wide and statewide systems. So yeah, documents of the triangulation survey of India as an example. There you go.
Dude, no one's arguing that. No one's denying that. No one's hand-waving dismiss.
Are well documented.
Yeah, but said I'm not hand-wave dismissing it. I'm saying, okay, this is a guy we met for the first time. Why would he lie? He's got documents that say someone's measured a triangle more than 180. So of course he's seen this happen, seen someone do it. I mean, why would he just believe what it says on a piece of paper, right, Larry?
Well, my survey experience in the late 80s in California, we did just that, and yeah. The accumulation of excess was always accounted for, even though it was only a few arcseconds.
You got the excess, yeah?
Yeah, because we were triangulating along an 80-mile course of right of way, and yeah,
yeah. So can I have a look at what you did?
No, can't, because I don't have access to 40-year-old documents from a company I used to work for, but we all do it, and it's incorporated in all the text.
Yeah, but Larry, you got to understand, people say a lot of things, don't they?
Evidence if you don't have it.
So what would it take for you, Chemo, or any of the others, to actually go and take these observations on your own, since you all express such intent desire on discovering it?
Look,
the burden of proof.
I'm just saying to Larry Cowbow.
No, that's not shifting the burden of proof. That's actually asking for revalidation.
He said, not me. He said, I've seen a triangle with more than 180 degrees. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I've done it. And I'm like, when? And he's like, some time ago. And I'm like, did you record it? And he's like, no, of course not.
Yes, but
so I'm like,
past that, let's go ahead and address what would it take to help you go and make these observations.
It's not my claim that the Earth is curving with a triangle of more than 180. So in order to go back to the globe Earth, I would have to say to Larry, you would do us a great service.
You have nothing.
I don't have the measurements. Larry has the measurements, right, Larry?
Yes, Chemo. Yes.
What would actually be needed to help you go and make the measurements your own?
Is Larry to do it so I can repeat it?
Shut up, burden of proof, because is nonsense, man.
It's not nonsense. It's literally shifting the burden.
You are one of the specialists.
To provide this proof, and you guys are trying to put it on.
Yes. Blah blah. Physical, non-logical things, nonsense.
Try
One second.
Paraleach, go ahead.
Yeah, Chemo. We have things that are proving something, yeah? We have.
Where?
We try to explain to you. For example, everybody was explained it, yeah? For example, you are a very good scientist, Chemo, yes? And you want to prove yourself, because it's wrong what we have been
Science doesn't prove things, buddy.
Look, right, Decodus, I'm not a surveyor, I don't make measurements, I do science, but Larry,
in this case,
Larry is a surveyor. Look, I'm not a surveyor, Decodus. I'm a scientist.
Man.
Larry does the measurements.
You're a scientist, you're a surveyor, or whatever you want. In this case, do you take everything what we are telling you as a burden of proof, like he's telling you here?
Yeah, I believe Larry, what he's saying.
You believe, now you believe Larry?
Yes! I'm saying to Larry, show what he's done. I'm saying, what's the problem, Larry? Get the triangle, show it adds up to more than 180, and we're back on the globe.
If you believe,
but Larry's like,
you contradict yourself.
It's well documented, and somebody somewhere, somehow, someplace has done it, and I'm like, what do you mean somebody somehow, someplace, somewhere, someone has done it?
Very good,
Larry,
very good.
Just show me the triangle that's got more than 180, and we're back on the globe.
Okay. So he told you something.
You got to remember, they hide things from you. It's just like when you look up vertical mapping. There is no information.
It's impossible to get a point here.
You measure something in the distance, you are measuring a perfect 90-degree angle because you don't have to worry about what's on the bottom. All you're measuring is what you can see, the height of something in the distance, so the negative angle of view doesn't come into effect. That's what you guys don't understand. They hide the information from you. Why is there no information on vertical mapping? When you
he's not going to hide it, David. He's not going to hide it, Dave. Larry is an honest individual. Larry is going to provide the observations of this triangle. Why would he lie? Right. Obviously, he's not lying.
Larry, what Dave just said. If you have something that's at 90 degrees elevation and something that's at 45 degrees elevation, that means that the thing at 45 is half as far away as the thing that's at 90 degrees elevation. Is that correct?
Okay.
I don't think so.
Everything
is 45 half of 90, Chemo.
Yeah, okay. But I'm asking Larry, the surveyor. None of you are surveyors apart from Larry.
I'm asking you.
Look.
Because David brought up an excellent point and you seem to be skirting it.
We can get to that point, but right now we've got a surveyor, Larry, GPS.
Yes, but he's trying to explain to you what the fuck you don't get it.
Larry, have you gone for now so we can move on to David and Curved's point? Because Larry, we had faith in you, but you've let the Globers down. You promised measurements of triangles. What's the deal, Larry?
What he promised?
Let him speak.
I have been here.
Let him speak, Dakota.
I did no. I didn't hear because he's gonna promise.
He was just about to speak.
Make you measurement. No, fucking hell! You're putting words in everybody's mouths.
Right, Decodus, the idea is that someone has measured the Earth. Larry came along and said, yes,
he put it the numbers on the chat. Did you get the numbers?
No, that was Doofus.
Okay, is the numbers on the chat there?
No, Larry said it's been well documented, and I'm like, okay, who's actually measured? He said me, like as in him. I was like, okay, can I see it? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to, but then I can't.
You as a good man who's seeking for the truth, you go there and investigate what was happened. You don't put Larry to fucking do whatever you want.
No, but it's not my claim. Who on earth is going to claim that a triangle can have more than 180?
Prove it wrong, man. Prove it wrong.
No, this is not my claim. You're not getting that.
Yes. He's not, but prove it wrong.
Your claim,
Chemo, is that gravity doesn't work in a vacuum. When are you going to demonstrate that?
Go on. They're not hearing me for some reason.
You don't prove negatives. It's intellectually dishonest
to have to provide evidence
to prove a negative thing because
yes, you do prove negative.
You can always be like, no, this is the reason why it didn't happen or whatever. You have like infinite amount of excuses you can come up with.
You're gibbering around again.
No,
you can't prove everything that is negative.
Is to say, that it's not right, and that's a negative claim, and you need omniscience.
And you know that you're blatantly ignoring this because you're incorrect. You have to provide a burden of proof for negative claim.
That's why the rule in logic is that the burden of proof is on the positive claim.
No, both
exactly right.
positive and negative claims do have to have a burden of proof.
No, negative claims aren't.
That's incorrect,
them because
and you know
it requires omniscience to
prove
negative claims.
And you blatantly know that's incorrect.
It's not incorrect. You just don't know your philosophy/logic.
It's incorrect.
Let me ask you.
I don't need to prove it because all I need to do, it's incorrect, right? The percentage.
I think he's confusing two different things. if something is, let's say, an apple is red, is a positive claim, and when I say this apple isn't red, this is also positive claim.
Wrong.
Wrong.
No, it is actually. It's a positive claim.
You don't need to know. You don't need to prove it's not red.
Apple is red is the positive claim requiring the burden of proof.
Which apple are you talking about?
You can prove it.
Which apple is red?
Because I say it's
You
not.
don't get it.
Because I say it's not.
Apple's not red, but that person's just flat wrong.
Well, hold on.
No,
Dakota said the apple is
you're
red. So which apple is he talking about?
You're comparing the type of claim with the actual content of the claim. That's the thing. Still,
No.
if apple is red and I say this apple isn't red, it's still a positive claim.
Which
that
apple?
Did you provide the apple? Did you provide
I
the
must
apple?
must demonstrate that
if
it's
you say
not red.
all apples are red,
Bring the apple with you.
are you saying all apples are red?
Can we see the apple?
Exactly.
So percentage, do you not make any claims then, percentage?
No, I make some truism claims, if you will. They're truisms that the horizon is flat, observably flat, and that the Earth is observably motionless.
Okay, and in this
I'll
argument,
expand that. I could say that the celestial, the heavens or the sky or whatever, the lights in the sky are moving observably. The sun is observably moving. You could keep on going. It's just realism.
But in what we're talking about, do you take a position on what we're talking about here?
Yes, the Earth is observably flat, and the Earth is observably motionless, and the horizon is observably flat.
Well, genius. The horizon is a flat circle.
That triangles
Percentage. You said your piece. Percentage. You said your piece. The horizon is a flat circle, and you don't expect it to be anything else but a flat circle, whether Earth is flat or a globe.
I didn't say the horizon is a flat circle.
I said it's a flat circle. I said it's a flat circle. You said it's flat, and I added a circle, and you don't expect it to be anything
Well, I don't agree that the horizon is a circle.
So your claim has nothing in it. So what if it's flat? We expect to see
you made the claim
circle.
right now. You made the positive claim that the horizon is a circle.
Yes, it's a circle.
How?
Prove me
Where's
wrong.
your evidence that the horizon is a
Prove
circle?
me. What do you mean? The horizon is 36 degrees around you.
Yes, it's all around you. That doesn't mean
That it's a circle.
No,
Genius.
just because it's all around you doesn't mean it's a circle.
All around you is not a circle.
No, it's not.
What is it?
A circle is a perfect
percentage. He's saying
at the same distance around.
Percentage.
You.
He's saying that you made a circle when you go around, like
refraction. You don't have the same refraction all around you all the time. It's not isotropic.
Yes,
it's not
you do.
symmetrical.
Yes,
so
you
it's not
do.
a circle.
Still
makes it a circle. Percentage. It still makes it a circle.
No, it's just all around you.
What's 360 degrees?
Yeah, around you is 360
A square
percentage.
could
Why
be
you arguing
365
this?
degrees around you. Stop being stupid.
Yeah.
What is 3?
So it's an ellipse. You don't expect to see it.
He's talking about a circle.
You haven't shown that to the ellipse.
Percentage, bro. I'm on your side. He's talking about what you do when you turn around. It's a 360. He's not talking about the sphericity.
Yeah.
So
no,
it's meaningless what they're saying.
No, it is because we don't expect to see it anything else.
Yeah,
there is no expectation to see it curved.
That's a circle, or you
no,
can concede that.
It is a circle. It is a circle.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. I see. Oh, go to sea. Try it for once. Go in deep sea and look around you. The horizon is the same distance around you.
How could you gauge that it's exactly the same distance?
That's what I see. That's how it presents itself. That's how it presents itself.
Exactly the same distance.
No. That's how it presents
itself.
itself.
You're not doing that percentage.
It presents
I'm
all around you. I
eyeballing
agree.
it.
It presents more or less.
That's not at all what he
the
said,
distance,
and
you
you know
it's a circle.
percentage. That's not at all what he said. It's not an exact.
I'm eyeballing
never
it.
stated that. You're trying to
He
force
said
him
circle.
into
Circle
that.
is an
That's
exact
strong
shape.
man,
It's a
and you're
perfect
incorrect.
shape.
I got a question, and I'm going to put a photo in the chat. Can somebody please tell me where you measure the curvature on this photo, please?
No, thank you, Dave.
It's okay. So the horizon is all around you. Not a circle, but all around you. Continue.
Yeah, so it's It's a circle around.
No, it's not. Oh, geez, Louise.
What is it then? What its shape then?
It doesn't have a shape.
Doesn't have a shape.
It's an apparent phenomenon. It's an
Apparent
apparent
phenomenon that does not have a shape.
intersection of the
36
sky and the
around, 36 degrees around you, but don't have a shape.
It doesn't have a shape. No.
Yes,
not
it's a
physical
circle.
thing.
It's a circle. Usually when they see something at the same distance all around me, it's a circle.
It's not.
Shut up, baby.
You haven't established that.
The
fact that we have refraction tells you it's not, strictly speaking, a circle.
Did you measure it?
I don't need to. It's a physical.
What do you mean you don't need to?
It's not
I
concrete.
look all around me at the same distance, the horizon.
You haven't established that's the same difference.
Yes, I have. It looks the same
you
distance.
Keep making the same mistake.
It looks the same distance.
It looks
that's
like
how
a
it.
it looks
That's
like
how
a
it.
circle. I'll give
Hello,
you that. It looks
hello,
like a
percentage. Hello, that's how it presents itself.
What about something past the horizon? I don't understand why you give a damn about the horizon when you can measure something accurately 50 or 100 miles past it. If you can measure the height accurately of anything in the distance, it makes a damn shit whether what you see below it.
But you can't.
That's what I don't understand about you. The Earth is flat because you can measure things height perfectly, no matter the distance. As long as you can. What do you
that would be easy.
Yeah, that's not true, David.
You need more information.
That's exactly what brought Randy back to the globe, David. You can't do it. You can't measure it accurately.
Why? You know why you can't measure it? Because it's not in your school books.
No, because you got to take curvature into account if you want to get an accurate measurement.
Curvature in the mouth. I don't have to worry about the ground at all as long as I see the top and I make a cord link to the top of that mountain. I give a damn about if the ground is round or flat or anything. Why does it matter?
That would work perfectly if the Earth were flat, but it doesn't work, David, and it doesn't work because the Earth is not flat.
How do you measure a mountain in the middle of the country then?
Okay.
How do you measure the height of a mountain in the middle of the country? You have to know what sea level is in the middle of the country, don't you?
Yeah, and
you do.
They spent decades.
Okay. So how in the hell are you going to find sea level if you're even distance from every goddamn ocean?
Because they spent decades measuring the elevation.
Oh, they spent decades brainwashing your fucking mind. Now shut the hell up, go back to work.
Oh, they spent decades.
David, get a job so you can go back to work.
Does it make any sense that they spent decades? They started at the ocean. They vertically measured everything. That's the whole point, that you can't find any vertical mapping, because that's the way you would map the damn ground. You would go forward from the ocean. If you're at the ocean, you're in Florida, and you're going north, you're going to know what sea level is everywhere in the country, right?
David, can you stop yelling, please?
Well, they don't ever let me talk.
No. All I hear is you yelling. Just stop it, all right?
Well, I never get to say anything because you guys don't like it because I got your shit
figured. You're not listening. We know what sea level is. We can measure it. We can go anywhere in the country and measure elevation above. Hold on. Stop it. We can measure sea level anywhere in the country by measuring just air density and pressure with an airplane or a balloon.
There we go. That is. Oh, wow. So we got it. So this is the way you do it, right?
Do you not agree we can tell you how far above sea level we are by going up in the air?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The elevations across the continent were physically measured with instruments and rods and screws and tens.
It was all done in 2D. It was not done in 3D. There was no horizons taken into account when you measure the height of a mountain.
Obviously, you don't know how measuring a mountain is done. Because
no, I don't. No,
Let him tell you that, David.
Use it in
let him talk.
You only need a 2D reference to measure the height of a mountain.
Let someone else talk. Let someone else talk.
You're talking to a surveyor.
I'm looking at that graphic you put up there. There is a substantial amount of detail missing from that graphic, and that is every mile further away from that mountain, those angles decline by an additional 26 arc seconds beyond the right triangle.
All I got to know is how many feet I am away from that mountain. I can tell you exactly how tall it is, no matter how far away it is.
Okay.
Oh, you're wrong, David.
No, that's your rule book feeling I'm wrong. Why would you think that you take a 90-degree angle to a mountain, you ain't gonna figure out how tall it is?
It's not fucking 90
David,
degrees.
he'll explain it to you.
A plumb bob. You use a plumb bob. You don't have to worry about anything on the ground,
Larry
right?
talks, David.
To measure the top of a mountain, you do not have to worry about anything on the ground. No horizons, anything
Let
like
someone who has done it tell us how they do it, David.
Oh, I know how they do it. Go ahead.
David had a good point just there. We don't measure from the horizon ever. We always measure from gravity vector, the plumb bob, and yes, we do know the distance from the mountain, and we do have an additional 26 arc seconds per mile from that mountain to account for the fact that we live on a goddamn planet. And yes, I can determine the height of a mountain above sea level quite accurately, give or take a couple of feet, if I'm only in the close proximity of 15 to 20 to 25 miles away.
You think they were worried about arc seconds in 1850, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Can you show us any information about arc seconds having to be taken into account using an inclinometer prior to 1900?
He did not use inclinometer.
Inclinometer.
You're back to your inclinometer again?
Yes, put inclinometer in everything. You're gonna have a good point.
That's the way you measure a mountain. That's how they did it in the past with an inclinometer.
Well, are you totally ignoring the survey of Mount Everest done with theodolites at significant distance?
They didn't have theodolites back then, man.
Are you that crazy?
Yeah, are you?
Okay, well,
Come on, David.
Show us when the theodolite was invented. Let's pull it out.
Holy crap.
Okay,
are we taking David serious again?
Theodolite invented. Let's see what year it was, since you're such.
Taking David seriously again.
And
stop that.
And mastering Wikipedia. He's know everything, you know. He's not taking account people who have been on schools.
I'm not sure David even takes himself seriously at this point.
How about the 16th century, David?
Isn't that something like the year 2023?
Hey, there's a picture of the ones that they used on the Everest survey. Is that one recorded? That was only about 1860. Huh? And that measured in fucking arc seconds. You insulting ignoramus.
Hey, now let's not be child. Let's watch the language there.
Ignoramus is over the line. I know.
One from 1787, David.
They have been measuring arc seconds from way back, even in 1760, Academy of Sciences, Paris, when they measured the fact that the Earth is not a sphere, it is a slightly oblate spheroid. At great expense and great scientific endeavor, they dispatched theodolites all across into several countries at different latitudes and measured, in arc seconds without hesitation.
That's communist propaganda.
Yeah, that's exactly communist propaganda in 1760 France. Yeah, when they first realized that Newton was right, the rotation of the Earth is caused the slightly oblate shape of the planet. Accurately.
One from 1851, David.
Mason and Dixon were very keen at sub-arc second measurement when they laid out the Mason-Dixon line.
Here, give me a minute. Hold on.
Note that Mason
It's
and
going to
Dixon
take a while to get your
also
feet
involved-
out of your mouth, isn't it?
You should also note that Mason and Dixon were involved in the transit of Venus as well. That's how they got the job doing the little land dispute, the border dispute between Pennsylvania and Maryland.
I say, I'm sorry, David.
I just don't know where you get off saying that arcsecond measurement is a modern concept as opposed to the oldest of triangulation, geometry, trigonometry, instrumentation. I mean, since the invention of the telescope. Come on.
Yeah, but Larry, this is all based off trust. You know, you just want us to trust that somebody is documented, but never show.
And once again, Kimo, once again, you don't believe it. Go yourself and look at it. Don't let the people telling you what we believe it. Go yourself and demolish us with proofs, with evidence.
Thank you for your advice. Now, Larry spoke about surveying. Sound like you know what you're talking about, but can you show what you're talking about? As in,
no, Kimo, he have it claimed.
A measurement, a real world measurement of real world curvature, and a triangle that adds up to more than 180.
Very good, Kimo. He have it some claims. Prove him because he's wrong. Prove
We've
him.
done that many times, Kimo.
How can I prove it wrong if it hasn't been proven right?
Looking for a YouTube video, right, Kimo?
Yeah. What?
Nothing. You want a YouTube video, right, Kimo?
Here's a problem that you're having. It says arcseconds are measured from a plane angle. What is a plane and what is a plane angle?
That sounds like a good Google question for you there, Chief. We all understand it perfectly well.
Yeah, it's not quiz time, David. Let's not quiz them. Let's get them to provide the triangle that Larry has said he's measured to more than 180. Here's a look, Larry.
Okay.
How can we verify and repeat it?
I have plain ice cream. What does that have to do with the flat Earth?
Because on a flat Earth, you would only have a triangle that is 180. Put a triangle on the ground.
I've already demonstrated it, Kimo. All you need to do is Kimo, stop talking. I'm talking now.
Go on then.
You get a flight from New York to Los Angeles to Anchorage and back to New York. It comes up to 192 degrees. End of discussion. Prove it wrong. Prove it's not 190. Prove it's anything other than, or not anything other than 180. So
well, that's the
we've
thing,
already
you see,
proven
Bob.
it. Don't need to bother with it anymore.
Well, that's the thing, you see, Bob. Just like Larry
you might
here.
get 100 degrees. You might get a bit more than 180 degrees because you are going over land with elevation, and you know, with even undulations of the water based off electromagnetics. But in general, you would get 180-ish degrees. But you know, going in a straight line over a surface.
192. So your argument is moot.
No,
Prove
Bob,
it
it's
is not
180 a
anything other
triangle.
than 180.
Triangle, 3 angles, right?
There are 3 angles.
No, but they need to add up to 180.
On a flat plane, yes.
On a flat plane. So, if I put a triangle on the floor, they will all add up to 180.
Emo, just stop it. Prove,
There's a wizard
that route is 180 degrees. Those 3 angles.
What, just by drawing something on a piece of paper?
I don't have any time for you, man.
Bob, I'm not dealing with your scriptures today. I'm speaking to Larry about real world measurements that he has
that
really
is a real
made.
world measurement.
No, Larry has
Well,
made.
let's look at this question a bit differently, Kimo. Would we really expect even 180 on a flat surface with, you know, wind currents and stuff like that?
Lemon over water. Over water, lemon. Over water.
Yeah, but you'd have to go over water for that to be the case. But if you're going over land, perhaps this is getting a bit more complicated.
Yeah, but on water, they could never get a triangle that's more than 180 on the flat water.
I don't know about that with topography.
What you saying there, Big Blue?
You can't get a triangle that is 180 degrees, not on the Earth.
What are you talking about? Put a triangle on the floor, it's going to add up to 180.
Hey, on the
floor.
floor.
Putting a little triangle on the floor. I'm talking
Only
about
when
a
you
triangle
bend
encompassing
that triangle.
35 square miles of the Earth's surface, and the angles will not add up to 180 degrees.
Yes, Harold, we
They
know
will
the
not.
diagram. We want to see in reality that this is a real thing, not mathematics. We don't deal with mathematics. We deal with real world.
Chemo, what do you want? Someone to go paint a triangle on Earth?
Yes, I want like a visual
Like,
when you
yes, a visual.
No, you want a
Seriously?
YouTube video, Chemo. Be honest, will you?
Oh, Rachel's here.
YouTube video of it, right?
Because Rachel speaks.
Because that's the only thing you believe is true.
I watched one of your videos today. Very good stuff. I didn't realize you were very active in the flat Earth environment. Good stuff. Good stuff. You speak to the ball earthers.
Kimo, you asked Larry for a proof for curvature measurements, and he presented it.
There's a picture on the chat.
Size matters. If you have a 400 square mile triangle on the floor on your floor, yeah, and if the elevation of the points are all consistent, yeah, try measuring those. But you don't have 400 square mile triangle on your floor, now do you? But
Larry, your mic is awful, mate. You need to up the volume.
Shut up.
His mic's fine. Shut the fuck up.
Well, just listen back in the live feed, Larry. You tell me if that's fine. But anyway, what we're looking for is verification of your triangle, or just concede. Hey, Rachel.
No, you just don't.
Just concede, Larry. Concede that it's only been documented, as in written down on a piece of paper.
Why don't I do that to you too?
But never.
Why don't you let the guy talk? What are you afraid of, Chemo?
I'm trying to ask Larry a question.
You coward.
The surveyor.
You coward. Shut up. Shut up, coward, and let Larry talk.
Go ahead, Larry.
I got nothing for Chemo. I got nothing for him because, yeah, the plan has been measured and triangulated. Yeah, I didn't do all of it. I dabbled in some of it for only about 30 years.
Is he breaking up, or is that me?
He's roboting.
Yeah, he's breaking up.
You break, Larry. The connection is.
He's roboting. He's roboting, Chemo.
He's roboting. The connection's low. We're trying to communicate with Larry, the surveyor. Larry, we need your.
What about Larry the cable guy?
Sorry.
What about Larry the cable guy?
Larry the cable. Yeah. But Larry, we're ready to go back to the globe as long as there's sufficient, satisfactory, definitive proof and evidence, because obviously if you prove one thing, you prove it all. So we need to see that those numbers on that paper is not just made up. I wanted to just sit there and write the paper. Did they actually make a triangle that added up to more than 180?
Chemo, can I make a short story for what you are trying to achieve here?
Of course you can.
You're gonna push him. You're gonna push him again mentally until you're gonna reach a point when you're gonna push him to make the experiments and to prove it for you, because with videos and with evidence, because everything what he have been claimed, it have to be done in front of your eyes. So this game that you're playing, it have been played for every day. Do we have something else that we have to achieve here? Because I'm very curious, because I'm losing my time, wasting my time just to see your nonsensical things.
Well, I've got a story for Larry.
Again, no evidence.
I've got a story, Larry. Check this out. So,
if you're wasting your time, you can leave at any time, buddy.
Exactly.
No, mate.
Yeah.
No.
But I got a story for Larry.
I'm very curious what the flat earthers
wants
to achieve on the internet to force other people to make experiments
I'll tell you what we've
for
achieved.
himself,
So far,
for his ass.
We've managed to get somebody to do real science in the real world. And something that we never ever thought would ever happen. Now, biodual, so listen, Larry, this is my story. So obviously I don't believe in the globe because there's no science, nothing to back up the claims. Now, there's a guy called Biodual, and he claims he can show mass attracting mass in a vacuum. Now I was like,
because you forced it.
I'm like, are you crazy? He's like, no, that's a normal
because
thing.
Because you forced it.
So I'm like, okay, then if you can
to make this experiment.
So I'm like, okay,
yes.
Bio, if you can show in a vacuum mass attracting mass, I'm back on the ball. So what he did, he went to the college universities and said, hey, professors, can you show me mass attracting mass so I can record it and show these flat earthers that it's a real thing? They said, no, sorry, you can't do it right now. So he couldn't get access. So he went and bought a vacuum chamber himself, Larry. Larry's still here.
Man, you forced him to do those things.
Oh, Larry's
you forced him.
Oh, yeah,
we have
anyway.
been here witness it. We have been here witness it. Whatever you have been done it, and you forced people to do experiments for your ass.
Yes, because you're the experts.
Yes. What? Yes. Did you provided money for that experiment? Did you provided something?
Money?
Yes, money.
What?
Because experiments cost.
But it's not my claim.
It is your claim. Come on. What the fuck?
It is your claim, Chemo.
It's your claim. It's somebody else's claim, Chemo.
Flat Earth.
You're the
flat
only
Earth
one that
community.
claims it doesn't work
Flat
in a
Earth
vacuum.
community.
You are the only one, only person on the planet.
Let's be clear for a second, guys. You guys are accusing Chemo of forcing people to do experiments. If people are dumb enough to spend money to try to prove things to Chemo, that's on them. Blue, do you feel like you were forced to do your Cavendish experiment?
No, actually, I went the opposite direction when they started bitching at me about using something other than lead and got nasty about it. I said, you can kiss my ass. I'm not doing it. I would have if you'd have been half nice about it. If I were Bio, I would have said the same thing to Chemo.
Well, Bio had a big mouth.
And when you're done, fuck off again.
He tried to show off that he's the big man, I've got the science, and he, went away with his tail between the legs and had to buy one to back up his claim. Wasn't me that was showing off. I asked a simple question. Hey, can you provide cabbage in a vacuum? He was like, yeah, you silly flat earther. Yous are all stupid. Of course we can provide you. So, you
don't know when you're being pranked, do you?
And,
you don't have a clue when you're being pranked, do you, Chemo?
No, but I'm just saying he's the one, Blue.
Son of a bitch. You have no idea that I was... you didn't know I was pranking you, did you?
Pranking me about what?
I'm not doing it.
What, you've done it already?
About doing the shit in a vacuum. It's ridiculous. It's your claim. You want it done, you go do it yourself.
Oh, I thought you
That's what I've been telling you from the beginning.
That's my point. That's my point.
Making that claim. That's your experiment. You go do it.
Anyway, Bio's already bought the pump. He's got the vacuum chamber, I think. He's just waiting for the rest of the parts to come through. And we'll have some real science on the table.
If you've been able to get that out of somebody else, but you sure as hell didn't get it out of me. And don't you dare say I walked away with my tail.
You're all about pseudoscience, Blue.
Let me tell you something.
Blue, you're not interested
One flat Earth experiment in any university anywhere on the planet, please.
Blue, you're not interested in science, okay? You're interested in pseudoscience. BioJewel is interested in science, straight science. Not what he thinks, not what he believes, but what he can test and experiment with.
You're not going to insult me into doing this. You're not going to insult me into doing this.
Because real men and women in the world want real science, not what they think or feel.
Go ahead.
It's not a religion.
Exactly, Chemo. Which is why you're supposed to do the experiment yourself. Just like the measurements for the Earth. That's what you're supposed to do for yourself.
Exactly.
And that's why I keep asking you when you're going to present these things.
Who, me? Again.
You, because you make the claims that they can't be done, so
Lemon
you have to prove that impossibility.
Go ahead, Lemon.
Well, thank you for your experiments. Y'all do good work, but I think the interpretation is still biased with the globe. So this is like a form of peer review from a hostile flat witness to see maybe if we're missing something,
Right.
No.
And unless you do it this way, the proper way, then you're just giving us poetry and what you think is the cause. And that's not science, guys. You already saw someone today come up with the name pseudo. That was to remind you people that you're using a thing called pseudoscience. Your beliefs are taken as misplaced concreteness.
Your game will not work, Chemo.
It's not a game, Blue. This is people's lives. People want to know if there's a heaven, or if there's an evolution, or if it was a Big Bang. Now, simple experiments like this will give us those answers, Blue. Game? What game are you talking about?
The answers are already there, Chemo, and I don't really care if you like it or not.
Well, provide it then. Provide Cavendish in a vacuum. Give us a look.
Okay, you see, you're playing the same game.
See, you don't have it, do you? You can't back up your claim.
Did you search for it?
Because it's not required. I don't have to because that's your claim.
Lemon?
Chemo, do you have it?
It doesn't work in a vacuum. It's up to you to prove that.
Lemon?
Oh, I just want to thank you guys.
Why don't you just show it and that's it? That's all you have to do.
That's so rude.
Show it.
You guys keep arguing about, look, just silence chemo with your evidence. That's all you need to do. That's it.
Why do I have to silence chemo? Why do I have to silence chemo with the evidence?
Why not?
Silent
Why
Zero.
not?
Let
Silence
me
him.
explain
Because
something.
we know-
Silent Zero. So this won't silent. This won't just silent me. Okay, this will answer the gas pressure question. You know when Nathan says, "How do you have gas pressure
There's no
without a
question.
container?" This experiment will answer that question. They'll be like, "Bang." There's your mass attractive mass. When
we know
QE says,
you're not going to accept anything as evidence anyway.
it's going to be scientific. Produce it for us right now. Let's have a look.
I already told you we don't need
It's not
the
about
vacuum.
me. This is about the
We don't need
entire
the
flat Earth
vacuum.
community because there is no
Chemo.
science anywhere in the heliocentric
Chemo.
model.
Chemo, if it works in air, that's all we need because
So
we need
why
it in
doesn't it
air.
work
We
in a
don't need
vacuum
it in
then?
vacuum.
Okay, it
There
works
is
in
no
air.
need
Okay,
in
fine.
atmosphere to have the vacuum to be here.
Tell me
No.
why it doesn't work in a vacuum.
I don't know.
I don't know why it
care,
doesn't
I
work
told
in a
you,
vacuum either.
Because we don't live in a vacuum. We live in air, and it attracts mass in air.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's all we need.
The air
we
is
don't
the
need
core.
a vacuum.
Air is the cause of why we stick to the board. Got it.
Okay.
Okay, we got it. Thank you, Chaiki.
But it answers.
Air is the force. Thank you,
The
Chaiki.
question: what holds the Earth together?
Also, being on a flat plane, Chike answers all the question without mass.
Without mass, it's the air is the force causing the downward acceleration. The
Mass
air.
attracts mass when it's in air.
Can you back up that claim, Chemo?
Yeah, is that your claim there, Chemo?
No,
It's air?
Chaiki said the air causes the mass to move.
Oh, so what's your rebuttal to that? Or are you just accepting his answer?
Well, we know why the balls move in the Cavendish because of the air.
Oh, so it's air.
Well, that's the final results with Cavendish. Unless we put it in a vacuum.
So that's your postulation that it's air.
No, once we put Cavendish in a vacuum, remove the air.
So it's not air.
And the balls still move. Then we will have mass attracting mass. But if there's air,
So is it air or is it not air?
we don't know yet until BioJule does the experiment. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, the experiment that you're supposed to do because you don't think that it works.
Look, right now
You are supposed to do yourself.
Look,
Chemo.
What? No, I don't have to do anything. I haven't claimed anything. Not once. Not once have I claimed anything. And I want to make sure that you understand that you've made two claims so far, that it was air and that it doesn't work in a vacuum. So that's two claims that it does work and that it's air that's causing it to happen. So that's two claims, Chemo, and anytime you want to present that experiment, I'm happy to look at it.
What are you talking about? You're saying that Cavendish works outside the vacuum. Okay, fine. We know the cause outside. If you put it in the vacuum, question is, why doesn't it move?
Do the experiment. You said why doesn't it move? So now you have to see if it does move.
I think the question is why doesn't it move when air is present? In other words, when you just have air and the Cavendish, nothing happens. When you
Nobody
insert
knows
the
that,
masses,
Mike.
then something happens.
Nobody
Why
knows.
is that, Chemo?
Nobody knows.
Why is that, Chemo? Chemo,
Nobody
that question
knows.
is to you. So you're saying that it's air, but the air was there in both conditions.
Well, again, we don't know because in a vacuum it doesn't move. Why?
No, that's not proven. That's a positive claim.
Yes, but why,
You wanna
Moy?
back it up?
Inside the vacuum
It's
there is no
already back it
movement.
up. You're saying it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Do you have anything to back that up, Chemo?
Yes, we've got bio. What, are you deaf or something?
You just said it does not move inside a vacuum. Back it up.
Right, so we've got a paper that says it moves, but we've never seen the observation of it.
It's right there.
Oh, so you have to see it. Hold on. You just said it didn't. You said that it didn't, but this paper is saying something
but it did.
opposite.
The paper said it did, but the observation shows that it never.
So you haven't seen it, so you should do it.
No
right?
one has ever
Because you don't
seen
believe
it
the
move.
paper.
That's the point. No one ever.
No. Wait. You can't say no one because you don't know everybody.
Yes, no one ever has ever seen Cavendish in a vacuum move.
You can't use no one. If this paper was written by somebody else, You're saying that they're a liar.
This is a no black swan. There are no black swans when it comes to Cavendish in a
you
vacuum.
have to prove it to yourself that it doesn't work.
Just give me one black swan.
You have to do the experiment.
Just one black swan, one Cavendish in a vacuum proves.
What's the problem? Aren't you a truth seeker?
Right.
Or are you too lazy, or you don't have the money to do it? What's the problem?
Oh my goodness. We've got BioDual. BioDual has already bought a vacuum chamber.
You don't have BioDual. He's ours.
No, because when he sees that it doesn't move, he's going to be a flat earther. He's going to give up all your nonsense physics, and he's going to be telling the truth.
So you're claiming it one more time, Chemo.
What?
That it isn't going to move.
Have you ever seen it move in a vacuum?
Chemo's claim.
Have you ever seen it move in a vacuum?
So it's like he knows.
Anyway, let's pass the mic to some of the flat earthers. All right, calm down. We've got Silent Zero, skeptical.
Don't ask this question. Don't ask why doesn't it move? Because you didn't see it didn't move.
Let's not hug the mic now, Chaiki. So look, skeptical, Silent, how you doing? You want to attack the ballers in any direction?
What's up, Kimo?
He's running away from his claims because he knows it's bullshit.
No, there's nothing we can do about it. No one has ever seen it before.
He's going around with his tail.
That's what he always does.
He made a claim that he can't back up, and now he's running away like a bitch.
Right, Silent, skeptical. How we doing?
Tail between his legs like he always does.
But thousands of people see this happen every fucking day.
Look, you've got to accept that I am right on this question. You are wrong. You cannot provide Cavendish in a vacuum.
I have to give us one reason. You're not man enough to back your claim up, Chemo. That's what I've got to accept.
It's not my claim.
You just made a claim that
it doesn't work in a vacuum, and you're not man enough to back it up yourself. You've got to go beg one of us to do it for you.
There is no such thing as mass attracting mass. Do you understand that?
Pitiful.
Is that clear for you guys?
Understand that I've shown that you're that is incorrect many times.
Blue, you've shown that I'm a liar. How? Post your vacuum, Cavendish. Let's have a look.
You're gonna go do it? I'll do it again right now. How about that?
Go on then, give us a look then. Post it.
Want to go sit?
All right, let's have a look.
I'll go do it live.
Why do you keep over talking Blue?
All right, Blue, let's take a look. Give us a look. See what you got.
I'll go do it live then. Okay. Take me a few minutes. I'll get it set up.
What? Cavendish
you can watch it live, Kimo.
Hold on, what are we doing here? Cavendish in a vacuum?
No, Kevin.
No, not in a vacuum. That's your claim. You have to do it in a vacuum. I don't do it in a vacuum.
That's what you want.
That's your demand.
Oh, if it's not in a vacuum, then
it's your claim. If you want it done in a vacuum, do it in a vacuum.
But if it's outside of the vacuum, we know the cause to the effect.
No, you don't. I'm going to show you that you don't know the cause. I'm going to prove that right now.
Of course we know the cause. If you put it in a vacuum, the cause has been removed and it doesn't move.
I'm going to show you that it doesn't move when the masses are not introduced, Chemo.
Well, you can do whatever you want.
Chemo make another claim again real quick. What's causing it to move, Chemo?
So if you remove the air, the pressure, the pushing pressure air from the container, there's nothing to push the balls to move it.
That's not what's moving them in the
Do you have a
first
video
place.
showing this?
Put it in the vacuum, and there'll be nothing to press it, and there'll be no movement. What?
You got a video for this?
A video of it.
No, How many times should I say this? BioDual.
No, you don't have a video. It's just a claim.
Okay, BioDual.
There's no evidence of this assertion.
I thought you
were about science,
What are you talking about?
Yeah, BioDual is doing an experiment with Cavendish in a vacuum. The first person ever to show it with human eyes live on YouTube, and he will prove on that day whether there is mass attracting mass or there is no mass attracting mass.
I'll give you this.
It's not deja vu. It's just him repeating himself every day. Yeah, no, it's not deja vu.
He repeats it every day, and yet you guys cannot do it. He repeats it every day, and you guys cannot do it.
Shut up, Mexican.
Is that what you're saying?
Why don't you do it?
I've been asking since December
about what we do and what we don't do.
Did somebody call me Mexican truck driver?
Why don't you do it yourself?
I don't think so.
Oh, who said that? Racism.
Lazy or
who
what?
said that? What's going on?
Whatever, man.
Let me look.
Yeah,
I said, why don't you go do it? That's what I said.
Who do you think it was?
There's only two reasons why you wouldn't do it. You're either too lazy or you're too poor. So start a GoFundMe.
There's only one reason why I wouldn't do it, because it's not my claim.
That literally was your claim. You said nobody's ever done it. It won't move in a vacuum. That's a fucking claim.
That's
now
not
back
a
it the
claim.
fuck up or shut the fuck up.
Okay, so if you can't provide evidence of this claim, give up the mass attracting mass idea.
So if you don't provide the evidence for the claim, then you give up.
Who believes in mass attracting mass? Me? No.
We have
Evidence has been provided.
Yeah, we know the cause to that. We know
mass
the
does
cause
attract
to the
mass.
effect.
In chemo, your objection is that air pressure is the cause.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for you, the experiment itself is very thorough.
Okay.
And the air pressure cannot be the cause.
Right.
No matter how much you complain about it, it's still not the cause.
Well, yeah, that's because you did it in a vacuum, right?
The air pressure is not the cause.
So answer
the
me then,
experiment
why
is
doesn't
very
it move?
thorough.
Why
Even as much as you want to complain
I'm
about
not
it,
complaining.
it won't change that the air pressure is not the cause.
I'm asking you, why doesn't it move in a vacuum?
You're asking a question that you presuppose is the case, and you don't know that's the case. It's a claim that you are making.
What are you saying? It
I
does.
thought you were a
You're saying that it
scientist
does
there,
move in a
Emo.
vacuum, or you don't know.
You say it doesn't, and you don't know.
But what are you saying? You don't know, or it does?
We can say we don't know. You can't say why doesn't it move in a vacuum because you don't know it doesn't move.
Well, of course we know, because Blue.
Not enough media.
Don't say we know. You haven't seen it.
Blue showed us the cause.
No. Go
ahead, Lemon.
No. You haven't seen it not moving in a vacuum.
You need a medium in the vacuum.
That's right. That's nice. That's nice. You can't say it doesn't move.
For us to swim, we need water.
Yeah, for life, your mic is
medium in
too
a
low.
vacuum
You're just
for the thing to
mumbling.
work off.
Okay.
Those
Turn your mic
spheres
up,
aren't
people.
swimming, genius.
We need water to swim. We can't swim in air because the medium is not optimal. The
Those
rocket has
spheres
nothing
aren't
to work
swimming.
off of than
It doesn't matter how many times you say we need water to swim, those spheres aren't swimming. It has nothing to do with swimming.
So
They swim through the air in the vomit comet.
There's no medium.
Medium, Lemon. What about that?
It's a particular medium to work, one with air.
What's your point?
So unless there's a medium in the vacuum for it to work off of, no rocket. That's the point.
Oh, you need to back
We're not
that
even
up.
talking about rockets.
We see it with experiments. You can't get ignition or nothing.
Can you swim as fast as you run, Lemon? What's optimal about water?
Water is the proper medium for swimming. If you want to swim, you need water as a watery medium. If you want a rocket to work, you need a medium.
Well, how do you know that oil is not good for swimming? Have you tried it?
I've never tried it.
In oil. But it's toxic for you. But you can swim on it.
Yeah.
Well, technically, birds are swimming in the air.
Where?
Kind of the same thing.
There you go. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's true. But you need an optimal medium. That's the point.
How come it's optimal for birds and not for us?
They have very light bones.
Your arms are fucking fat and thick. That's why.
Yeah,
maybe.
And they have huge breast muscles relative to their very light bodies. They are streamlined for the task. We are heavy and squishy. We are not streamlined for that task.
Somehow related.
And how do rockets differ from animals? They eject mass, right?
They need an air column to work off of. Otherwise, that rocket doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
The rocket has to eject mass in order to be a rocket, correct?
It has to push off of a medium also. No medium in a vacuum, at least in our current half-brain theories about what, if anything, an Epicurean vacuum is. So no rocket.
So that rocket ejecting mass is causing a change in momentum in one direction, where the mass of the rocket, or the momentum of the rocket, is then changed in the other direction. It's Newton's third law. Saying rockets don't work in a vacuum is a shift of the burden of proof by saying that you're saying that Newton's third law doesn't work in a vacuum. You're now making the positive claim.
I agree with you up to a point, but for there to be an equal and opposite reaction, you
What
need
you're
something
saying
to
is
react.
that rockets don't work in a vacuum vacuum is the same as Newton's third law doesn't work in a vacuum. You're saying Newton's third law, a universal law of motion, doesn't work only in some cases. And now you have to substantiate. Now you have to substantiate that law is invalid in a vacuum.
Doofus, we need to break it down even simpler for him. Lemon, do you agree that if we change momentum, it takes a force? If any time we change momentum,
have something to react against us, yeah.
Hello?
Who let Zanuck in?
No, mute.
The third law is valid here. So we're just asking you whether you believe that a force is required to change momentum.
Yeah.
Did you say yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's a change in momentum, why isn't there a force on the rocket?
You need to have something to react. In the Epicurean vacuum, there's nothing to react.
Force required anytime an object, a mass changes momentum. There's a force required. So
but for there to be an equal and opposite reaction, you got to have something to react. Otherwise, it's just mysticism.
You're telling me the same thing I'm telling you. You're agreeing with me. So we throw something out the back of the rocket, mass of fuel or a bowling ball. It doesn't matter what the mass is, as long as we've changed the momentum of that. There's a force in the equal in the opposite direction, which would be the rocket. It's acting on the rocket itself.
If the rocket's acting on the rocket itself, it would eventually explode. It needs to have a medium outside of the rocket to push off against.
Lemon, you're too smart about so many things that we talk about to be this dumb about this basic.
I'd be even smarter if you'd stop interjecting and interrupting my thinking and speaking process.
I want you thinking while you're
out on people when they do the same to you. Why can't you afford other people the same fucking respect?
Because you don't do it either.
What's your problem?
Before you speak. And I gave you the platform.
Are you a pariah?
Answer.
Hang on. Is Lemon a pariah? Is he oppressed?
I can only deal with one troll at a time, so you're just going to be ignored. I'll deal with Zanuck, but I'll deal with you later.
All right. So we have a change of momentum. We have an object. Let's just say it's a bowling ball pushed out the back of a rocket. If you change the momentum, meaning that mass now has a velocity imparted to it, right? So it has an acceleration, it has to have a force. That force comes from somewhere. It comes from the rocket. The rocket has to push back because forces are in pairs. These are proper forces. So the force acts on the ball, because that was the explosion, and the force acts on the rocket, pushing it in the other direction with equal and opposite force. The ball goes out very, very fast. The rocket, which is much larger, accelerates a little slower because the force is the same, the masses are different. That's how rockets work. It's really simple stuff, Lemon. Come on. You say something, David?
Hey, Zanuck, if a rocket is expelling fuel at a rate of some 20 tons per second, and it's accelerating that fuel to about 5,000 miles per hour, how much thrust is that?
What was the number? How many feet per second?
20 tons per second.
20 tons per second?
Yeah, we're talking about the Saturn V.
Okay. I'll give you a force for that?
Yeah.
That would be the force of up.
The Saturn V let out 20 tons a second, and how many tons was it carrying to start?
Well, the rocket weighed 3 million pounds, as far as I recall. It may have been 7 million. Oh, 7 million. Weighed 7. Oh, wait, shit, I'm not sure.
7 million
3 million.
times.
I gotta look it up.
How many pounds are in a ton again? 5,000 something? I forgot.
2,000.
2,000.
5 million pounds for a fully loaded Saturn V.
How many pounds are in a ton, guys? Come on, 2,000 something?
20 tons.
Look that up, Jeremy. That's a pretty basic question.
I'm not looking at shit. I'm just
But
telling
hang on, you guys are going to try and get Jeremy to do math?
I'm not looking it up out of pure laziness.
Yeah, 2,500 tons is what that rocket weighed.
40,000 pounds a second.
A ton is 1,000 kilograms. So it's 2.
Not when you're talking in pounds.
A metric ton. Metric ton. It's a metric ton versus a regular ton. Which are pretty close because a metric ton is like 2,200 pounds.
Lost my mic.
I like that. A metric ton's only 2,200 pounds. Close.
Seriously, we don't know how many pounds are in a ton. Really? So, Chemo, you ready to see the balance move when I reposition these masses? The masses in a different orientation. You ready to see it, Chemo?
Exactly.
Where is he?
Well, just watch my live stream.
He's making a cup of tea.
I'll go out there right now and move them. How about that? We'll do this real time. 104 on that clock, but that's got the delay. Let's see. Yeah, 105. I'll be back.
£40,000 of fuel coming out of the back end of that thing at 6,100 miles per hour? Yeah, 6164 miles per hour. I mean, that rocket has to go the other direction.
It's like having a massive fart, really, isn't it?
Heliocentrism is a huge brain fart. Huge.
By the way, Cody's lab.
You ejected 40,000 pounds of shit out of something.
Hey,
per second.
Hairy chest guy.
Yeah.
Cody's lab actually managed to ignite a rocket in a vacuum.
Oh, I know that, but that's irrelevant right now. I'm just trying to think. The rocket would just stand still in a vacuum if I was slamming up 40,000 tons or 40,000 pounds of fuel in a second, and it would just sit there.
You could even say it was the vibration of the force of the shit being moved out the back that made it get forward momentum.
Well, we have seen rockets work in a vacuum after it's expelled its gas and effectively created a medium to work off of. But when it's in vacuum conditions, you have little to no ignition and little to no repulsion until a medium is in place to work off of.
Well, that would imply that when the vacuum was at full, that it wouldn't have made any thrust. Yet when the vacuum was at full and the rocket first starts, it has thrust.
And you do realize hypergolic fuels, right, Lemon? You're not so behind the times. So you don't realize rockets using hypergolic fuels ignite without any existing air pressure, any existing supplied atmospheric oxygen. They work best in a vacuum. You talk about optimal medium for a rocket is a vacuum. And hypergolic fuels have no need for an ignition method, simple contact, and chemical explosion.
You're just moving the mass. You just imparted in a momentum to that mass, and that force, you already agreed, has to work in the opposite direction because forces are in pairs. So if you got a million pounds of something being thrown out the back, what did you guys say it was? How many tons?
20 tons.
20 tons?
Yeah, 20 tons per second.
So 20 tons. So there's 40. So 20 tons. So 20 tons times 20, that's 4.
And it accelerates to 164 miles per hour.
So it's 40,000 pounds of thrust. At 40,000 pounds of thrust coming out the back of that thing.
That would only be if it was accelerating the gas to like 1 mile per hour. It's accelerating to 5,000 miles.
You got to give me more information.
40,000 pounds of thrust, you say? And how long does it burn the motor for? Right. 20 tons per second.
Well, 1,800 kilogram.
Well, the first stage is only for how many? 2 minutes or something like that?
1,800 kilogram force per
2
second.
minutes at 20 tons a second.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
2 minutes
So
for 20 tons a second. Where's my calculator? What was that?
I know the answer is 7 million, but 7 million pounds of thrust.
7.6 million pounds of thrust. 7.6 million.
I'm rounded.
2 minutes is 120 seconds.
Well, how do you get to that answer? I'm not.
And keep in mind that the engines are throttled as well as the rocket gets lighter.
240 tons in 2 minutes.
Aerodynamic drag on the aircraft, on the rocket too.
2,400 tons.
40,000 pounds per second is what it's moving.
2,400 tons of fuel in 2 minutes.
Just do it per second. 40,000 pounds of thrust in a second. What is the thrust going to be on that?
If it burnt 20 tons of fuel per second for 2 minutes, 2,400 tons of fuel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what thrust did they say it has?
7 million. 7.6 million pounds. 7.6 million pounds of thrust.
7.6 million.
I mean, don't sound like you're shocked. I mean, literally 1 million people sat on the beach and watched this rocket that's the size of a skyscraper take off. So don't make it seem like nobody saw this. 1 million people stood on the beach and watched.
Many times.
The payload was approximately 2%.
Do their figures add up? That's what we're checking, isn't it?
Maybe.
7.6 million pounds of thrust.
Yeah, about 2% of that rocket was actually the capsule and the men. The rest of it was fuel and the engines to push the fucker.
Yeah, of course, that's only the weight of the fuel.
And the rocket itself, all over 1 million.
Yeah, I mean, the rockets are roughly 88 to 92% fuel by weight.
Luckily, as rockets go higher, they get
lighter.
So they get lighter, and therefore they accelerate.
Fuel that gets lighter as it goes up, it gets lighter, and it gets less resistance as it goes.
And the thrust actually improves as it gets higher,
which is a huge part of it. The aerodynamic
like fuel efficiency.
And they did it 13 times. 13 times. Not a one-off.
But I don't understand why you don't understand that you don't need air to push off of, when every experiment you could possibly conceive would show that air is not needed for it to be pushing off of. It's changing momentum.
Because it's arbitrary.
They know better. They just like to be contrarian. They know better.
Show
they
us
can't
an experiment with no air and it pushing off.
Your request for something that doesn't have any basis for substantiation is denied.
Basis. The fact that
it makes percentage. You can't be this stupid. Seriously, you and Lemon cannot be.
Newton's third law has been demonstrated to be a thing 7 ways to Sunday. As soon as you decide to start accepting that Newton's third law is a thing, then you'll stop claiming that it doesn't work in a
Newton's
vacuum.
third law is a thing in air. Yeah.
No, not in air. It's universal.
No.
By the way, you can watch the rockets. You can watch the rocket.
First off, it's always in air because there's no perfect vacuum. It's always air of varying pressures. Okay?
Percentage. You can watch the rocket.
Newton never talk about air percentage. Newton never talk about air.
There's
percentage.
no perfect vacuum. Every vacuum is air.
Percent. You just said that Newton's law applies where there's air, and then you said there's always air. So then you're saying Newton's law always applies always. So what's the problem?
Show us that it
applies. You just said it applies when there's there. You said it works when it's there.
Pressures.
You said it works when there's there. So equal and opposite reactions
Scott,
work when there's there.
That it works enough to have propulsion.
Why are you interrupting? I'm saying something, percent. Stop interrupting. You said
I'm not saying
it works where there's
finish. Shut the hell up.
You said that it works when there's air. Equal and opposite reaction. Okay, great. Then you said there's always air. So the only conclusion you're making is it works.
Yeah, it's all air. Okay. But there's a difference in the air that we have down here and then the air that you guys claim that it works in up there.
In the air, you can test to see is it air and see that it's
with
not.
a pressure of 1 × 10⁻⁷.
But you can look even in our atmosphere. You can test
anywhere
it.
Near that.
Whoa.
In our atmosphere, you can test it to see are you getting the thrust that you would need off the air, and you're not. You're getting way more. Where is that way more coming from? Well, it's coming from Newton's third law.
Yeah.
Show us the demonstration.
Well, you watch it live. You see the rocket take off. You see it
in a vacuum.
It doesn't need to be in a vacuum. I just told you do it in the air and see that the thrust you're getting is way more than pushing off the air. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the third law.
Air of that pressure is called a vacuum, colloquially, right? That's what we're talking about.
No, I'm saying don't do it in a vacuum. Do it outside on a frozen pond with ice skates. You'll get more thrust. You'll get more motion than you could possibly get by pushing off air. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the third law.
Yeah, exactly. So it's working. The more matter you have to thrust off of, the more solid.
No, I'm saying you'll get way more than possibly can be gotten. You're literally not listening to anything being said.
The less you have,
you'll get way more thrust than you could possibly get off the air. You'll get way more thrust. Where does it come from? It comes from the third law.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the air.
The third law says that the more matter you have that you're pushing off of, the more thrust you're going to have.
No.
Yeah, the more matter you eject, the more thrust you'll get. So equal and opposite reaction. So you throw some mass out the back, you'll go the other way.
Do you know
show us
an
that
airplane
in the
percentage?
vacuum.
Can you stop talking?
There's no such thing as a vacuum, you say. So why do you want to see it in a vacuum?
I already addressed this.
You can address that.
The air of low pressure that's colloquially called a vacuum. The vacuum of space.
So now you want to call that a vacuum. But you don't need to see that.
I already did this.
You don't need to see that. You don't need to see that. There's always atmosphere, you say.
So the entire audience sees that you're being dishonest. So
I'm not being dishonest. You're the one that made these claims, dude, not me. You're the one that's gotten yourself in this corner.
You have proposed
in the corner.
The third law. I'm
percentage. You're saying Newton's third law.
Where is the vacuum?
You're saying Newton's third law. You're saying Newton's third law in air. You're saying Newton's third law in air does you account for that by pushing off the air. Newton's third law in air always shows you in that instantaneous moment, the change in momentum of the whole system is zero. That's the point of Newton's third law. The change in momentum of the whole system is zero. The same thing occurs in a vacuum. When you eject that mass, that is the rocket fuel that has been combusted, the rocket has to go the other way.
Okay, show that.
We can see that in that atmosphere. We can measure the rocket taking off, see it, measure it at 120,000, 150,000 feet, and we can see its velocity. We can see its size. Hold on, let me finish. We know it's in there. We see this plume that is spread out almost 180 degrees from side to side because there's no air up there. We've measured the air up there. By the way. Hold on. I'm almost done.
Well, there's always there. You can't get what you want.
I'm almost done.
The air that's up
there. The plumes gets belled out to its almost 180 degrees side to side, yet it's still accelerating, and we know there's no air up there. We know it's a vacuum, not a perfect vacuum, but relatively a perfect vacuum because it's only 0.05 psi at the areas we can see it.
Yeah, guys, I just want to add something. Guys, I just want to add something really quick about this issue.
Does that mean that helium is now proof that we're in the vacuum of space?
Hey, Mr. Percentage, I just want to add something. I just want to add something about what they're going to say. Eventually, they will have to force to concede that the exhaust that comes off the nozzle, the only way it can propel the rocket forward is by the exhaust frictioning against either the engine or the nozzle itself. That's the only way it can be propelled forward. But when it comes to a nozzle of a vacuum, right, the types of nozzles they put on a rocket that goes in a vacuum, they're not rigid. They're very flaccid and soft. So if you want us to believe that the rocket is propelled forward because of the exhaust fumes have friction against the nozzle, then this is ridiculous. It should rip apart the nozzle because of how.
It's not really the nozzle.
Thanks for injecting a brand new form of ignorance I haven't heard today. But what's going on here is that the mass that is being ejected from the rocket is being ejected. It's changing the momentum of that mass. The result of that is the mass of the rocket is also changing momentum in the opposite direction. It doesn't have to do with friction off of the nozzle. It doesn't have to do with friction off the nozzle.
It does have to do with friction. It does have to do with friction. It bounces. Look, if you imagine a chamber, there's going to be one side of that chamber that's going to have an empty wall. That's going to be where the nozzle is, right? The opposite side, the side on the other side, when the gas molecules bounce off that side, that's where you're getting this equal and opposite reaction happening.
Yeah, that's not friction strictly.
Scott admitted what I said.
That's not strictly friction, though.
But the thing is that the chamber inside, it's under so much pressure that's the biggest fear that they have in rocketeering, that the fuel chamber, the gas chamber is going to explode because of how much pressure it is. And so you want to say that this very pressure is the thing that drives the rocket forward? If up until then you are completely in fear that the rocket is going to explode because of all that pressure.
You engineer it so that it doesn't, obviously.
But that's
the
not
whole.
no.
But if you were worried about, like, why would you have it be high pressure if you didn't need it to be high pressure? Obviously,
Maybe you can think of it, break it down into
because you want to store a lot of fuel.
But let's say it's also
and it's not infinite pressure, because there's no such thing as infinite pressure.
If you have a ton of pressure in this thing, whatever value you want to give it, and it's completely sealed, and as Veach mentioned, there's suddenly an opening, there's pressure, force on every surface area of that surface in that chamber. Once you open it, that's the only place where there's not a pressure on it, so it's escaping out of the chamber. Now we have inbound force. We have an inbound force.
Scott, in space, I completely I respect that you've admitted what I've said, that it is about the friction, and don't sell us the
let's say kinetic.
Okay, and don't sell us the bullshit that, you know, if there wasn't something to be pushed on, it can still work because of Newton's third law. No, that's not how it works.
But that is what I'm saying. I'm saying it works because of Newton's third law.
No, you're admitting with me that it still has to be pushing against something, either the nozzle or the chamber.
Itself.
Or the chamber,
Yes.
Still pushing
Listen,
against something.
so
okay, no. So what I wanted to say.
Yeah, the force is exerted over the entire chamber.
All right.
Yes.
So what I wanted.
That's the opposite. That the opposite direction of the force is exerted on the chamber. That's how the motion gets passed to the rocket.
All right. I just wanted to say that, well, if what you're saying is correct, then it makes no sense for them to light up the fuel and create burning while they're in the vacuum. All they have to do is just release the pressure. You would get
because here's why. They want to get maximum. They want to get maximum. Hold on. Let me say something. They want to get maximum pressure as high as possible, because what's going to matter is how much mass is ejected and how fast is it being ejected. What they want is to maximize those two numbers, right? Because the more mass is ejected quicker, the higher the thrust will be. And that's why they get the pressure up really, really high, so that when they open the nozzle, it goes flying out the back as fast as possible.
Well, that works really good while you're in the atmosphere and you're pushing against the atmosphere.
No,
so it makes sense to light up the exhaust at the end of the nozzle. But in space, while you're in the vacuum, it doesn't make sense to light it up, because if you light it up, it doesn't going to make the gas. It doesn't going to make the gas go faster. It doesn't go faster.
Do you know? Ever hear of chemical energy? When you light it up in the vacuum, when you light that up, the combustion, breaking those molecules, that's the energy, which far exceeds any tank pressure.
So inside that chamber, those molecules are bouncing back and forth very, very quickly. And it's that bouncing back and forth very, very quickly that gets released out the back of the nozzle. Speed right. Hold on. It's that speed right there that matters. And that's when you get it. It's not pushing out the atmosphere ever. Not in atmosphere, not in space.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
In Earth,
let me explain.
The thrust that you get from a rocket is greater than the amount you get from pushing off the air. It's not pushing off the air causing the greatest thrust.
If you test this on a small chamber, vacuum chamber, those gases are going to fill it up, and it's not going to be a vacuum.
Test it in the atmosphere, though.
Listen. Deflection noted. What's happening here when you fire off a rocket is you're getting more thrust than the amount of air that you can possibly push out of the way. It's not pushing off the air. That's not the primary cause of the thrust.
Put a metal like a couple inches from the thrust, and then try for that rocket to levitate. It has to be thrust. Yeah, that if you, I don't know how to explain it. It has.
Listen, you don't need a chamber. You don't need a chamber. Just measure the thrust you're getting in the atmosphere. You're going to get way more than possible from pushing off the atmosphere.
Maybe they need to understand the difference between a.
You literally are just wrong about this. You get way more thrust than possible.
You can demonstrate this.
No, but listen, you get way more thrust than possible from pushing off the air. So you got to ask yourself, where's this extra thrust coming from? It's coming from the third law.
It's pushing from the air.
You get way more than
He just finished telling you it's more than the air that you could possibly push out of the way. There's more thrust, and you're going to just sit here. You're going to sit here and repeat that it's pushing off the air, even though it's been told to you so many times that it cannot be the air that's causing the primary thrust. You can keep saying that it's not the air.
Guys,
you will be wrong every single time.
Guys, hold on. Let me just tell you my one common sense way to think about it.
It's the same.
Silent. Let me just tell you my one common sense way to think about it. Imagine, let's just think about this. Imagine that you're on ice. Okay, you're in the atmosphere. Fine. So I'm gonna give you two different ways to propel yourself backwards. Okay, I'm gonna give you a giant fan of some sort, like a fan that you can like move up and down. Okay, and you can use that fan to try to generate pushing off the air. Okay, so you can you can wave it. Then I'm gonna give you a beach ball, and you can throw the beach ball, and then I'm gonna give you a cinder block. Now, if you do all three of those things, one of those is gonna push you the most. It's gonna be the cinder block. Now, I don't know if you believe that or not, if it's intuitive to you, but you can go test it out anytime you want. Do it with roller skates, do it on ice skates. The cinder block will move you the farthest. And yet, the cinder block is displacing the least amount of air of all three of those things. Why is that? How is that?
Yeah,
How do you explain that?
And the cinder block doesn't have a relationship with the air and you?
It displaces the least amount, though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, it doesn't have a relationship with the air where it is? Yeah, of course it is. All right.
So why does? But here's the question. Here's the question.
Hold on.
But here's the question, Silent. Why does it move you the most?
You don't let me finish, buddy. You know why?
Listen to the question, Silent. You're missing the whole point.
I'm answering the fucking question.
Why does it push you the most if it displaces the least?
That could also be the aerodynamics of the cinder block, because a beach ball is more aerodynamic than a cinder block. So.
A beach ball is like 10 times the size of a cinder block.
But it
is round. But it is round. So it is easier.
You have a fan too. Don't forget you have the fan also.
So by that, if you have a square shaped balloon, then it would push off just as hard as the cinder block.
You intuitively, that's not true.
I don't know. I'm theorizing.
It's not true. You don't try it anytime you feel like it.
You listen to
What do
here.
you mean I don't know?
People are giving you the right information here. You don't push off.
You're just wrong, Sandy.
You have to understand.
Silent. How do you explain the question I just asked you?
No.
How do you explain the question then?
I tried to explain you. You keep interrupting me.
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, the block has a relationship with the air. The air is gonna put some resistance on the block. Therefore, when you try to throw it, it's gonna push you. It's gonna push you back.
You clearly did not understand the question again. Then. I get that part. Now listen to the question. Why does it push you the most if it displaces the least?
What if it pushes the most?
See, you really don't even understand what I'm asking you. It's like ridiculous.
Maybe think about
the cinder block, right? So it's still pushing, but it needs to have something to push off. That's the
more
point.
dense and heavier than the big balloon?
Yes, it is. It's more massive for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna put more resistance on there.
But it displaces a certain amount of air, and that's what you're going to be pushing off.
Because he's putting more resistance.
Less
inertia.
Surface area, Silent. It's smaller. It has less drag.
You really don't understand any of this.
But it's denser. It doesn't matter which area. It's denser.
No, density doesn't matter.
Good. Hold on. Zenit, you need to stop when you're ahead. Good. It's more massive. It doesn't care how much air it displays. You said it, Silent.
Yep, ejecting mass.
Yeah, but oh my God!
You said it.
If you think about an airplane, Silent. If you think about an airplane, it uses the air to push off of, and how it does that is it parts a negative momentum into the air with the. I'm talking into the air with a propeller. The rockets carry their mass with you. They don't need the air around it to push off. So airplanes do. Jet engines also do, even though they're enclosed. But rockets don't. They have the air and the fuel inside. They ignite it, it expands, and it's ejected out. It's the same principle, except it's got all of it self-contained. The mass and the air are all inside the rocket, and it's ejected. You don't need anything outside the rocket to push off of. It's just an exchange of momentum. It's really simple.
The mysticism comes when you say there's an equal and opposite reaction without anything to react against.
It's not. No, it's not. Go back to the basics. You got the rocket. You got all this let's say it's just compressed air rocket. You have 10,000 psi inside the rocket.
A concession has already been made that you do need something to react to, but the concession was made for you, and it was said that it was the nozzle or the inner chamber. So shut up.
Chamber.
He knows that. The inner chamber is just where the force is exerted. It's the same as where's the force exerted on a jet engine, right? How's the force transferred to the airframe? It's through the inside of the engine that the force is being pushed against.
Correct. And the air column with the medium.
He heard it on a YouTube video, and he's just going to repeat it. So you guys are discounting the fact that he heard it once, and he's just going to repeat it over and over again.
Well, one of the things I like to bring up when they make this argument,
they need air and they don't work in a vacuum.
Has anybody ever noticed the recoil of a gun going down with elevation? When people go hunting in the high Sierras, do they notice that their gun has half the recoil than it does at sea level, right? And if they're shooting a semi-automatic rifle, are they noticing that the gun is no longer able to cycle because it doesn't have any more recoil left?
Right. Or if it has a lot more recoil by firing it at a brick wall, then you're like 10 feet away. Like, oh my God, the recoil is so much higher because there's a brick wall in front of you.
Because there's
it doesn't. No, the answer is it doesn't. The answer is it doesn't.
That makes
bottom line here, you guys are just not understanding that all these force vectors are inside this chamber. And when it opens, the nozzle opens, then suddenly there's an area where there's not this resistance to that force. But everywhere else in that chamber, there is. And so if there's a vector outward where the rocket wants to go versus the exhaust gas traveling the opposite direction, there's your equal and opposite forces. They're only
you can think of it like it was being balanced, and then the nozzle opens, and now suddenly it's imbalanced.
And you got to look at and add up all the vectors inside that chamber because there's pressure pushing everywhere, but everything added up, all the vectors are pointing to the other direction. So you got gas going one way, and you got the rocket going the other. There's no interaction with the air outside or the atmosphere or anything outside of it other than the fact that there's an exchange of momentum, which you've already agreed that you understand, that there's exchange of momentum.
We don't agree there is an exchange of momentum without something to react.
I'm just telling, no, think about it. You have the...
No, dude, I think about it, and it doesn't work in my mind. It only works in your mind. It's already been conceded. And this point has already been conceded.
You don't understand it. You clearly don't. No, you don't. You have a compressed air. We're just on a CO2 cartridge, and we're in space. And as Veach said, we open the nozzle with a pop it open or have a turn knob, open it up. Everything in that chamber has pressure acting on the walls, all with force vectors. They all have vectors, and the walls are pressing equally back on that forces of the gas. These are moving molecules. They're impacting the wall and changing direction, which is in itself a force.
Yeah, and then you open the nozzle and
hold on. Yeah, you're good. You're following me. Great. So we have
but here you're not following.
Hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish, and you can make your retort.
For years you've been bullshitting us.
Let me finish.
Shut up.
Get Dreamy muted for a second. So we have all this balance of force inside the container. Thousands of PSI due to these molecules hitting the walls of the container and bouncing off. That change of momentum of those molecules is the force. So we have thousands of PSI in this container. We open the back of the nozzle. What happens? Now that one area, there's not a balance of force. Not. So there's an imbalance. We have more going in the direction the rocket's pointed, and the air is escaping out of that hole where there is not a balance of force. There's an opening there. So the air moving out versus the air moving or not moving, having pushing on the front of it, makes the rocket move. It's an imbalance of force.
All right. Thank you for conceding that you, at the end of the day, you do need something to push against. Whereas for years, you guys have been bullshitting us about, oh no, you don't need anything to push against.
It's just anything.
It's just the middle third.
We have an imbalance in the rocket. We have an imbalance caused by this vent.
No, what he's saying is something pedantically stupid. He's saying something pedantically stupid, Zanuck, which is what he's saying is that there has to be some place on the rocket that the force has to be exerted in order for the rocket to move. And nobody has ever said that's not the case. We're not saying that there's not something being pushed off of to push the rocket.
I said that. I said yes. There's force everywhere, and now suddenly this opening creates an imbalance in this rocket. Most of the force is now acting in a direction that this rocket is traveling. And the other,
I agree that could work.
No, it does work. It's how it works.
That's how rockets move through space.
Because the inner chamber is fucking carbon. It's fucking carbon fiber. In order to actually make it work and be efficient, right? You're going to need a much more force than that.
No, No,
It
just
doesn't have any rockets with carbon fiber combustion chambers, for one thing. But even if it were, that's worth.
He's talking probably about
a combustion chamber.
There is an ablative nozzle in some rockets, which is probably what he's talking about, which is a carbon composite.
So what?
No, I'm talking about the chamber where the fuel and the oxygen is stored, not the combustion chamber.
Oh, well, that
this
doesn't
acceleration of that mass is what causes the thrust, not what it's pushing off of. It's just a change of momentum, like we said 1,000 times.
Now you flip.
Jamie, don't get caught up. When he says pushes off of, he means atmosphere. Okay, he doesn't mean the chamber. Obviously, it pushes off the chamber.
Yeah, but if the chamber is filled up with the gases from the rocket,
we have the thousands of psi.
Okay, exactly. Take it down a notch, like you've been talking about.
First of all, do you guys agree? Once, like, if you put those little rocket on a chamber, vacuum chamber, then you light it up. You guys agree that that vacuum is not a vacuum anymore, right? It's filled up with the gases. It's gonna take a little bit of time, and once it takes time, that thing is gonna start moving.
Right. Except in those videos, you instantaneously see the thing move the second.
You actually don't.
It's going to take a fraction of a second.
It is instantaneous. Despite what you want to think about it, what's happening there is that as soon as the engine is ignited, you see a thrust before the gas has a chance to fill the vacuum chamber. Before the gases fill the chamber, before they fill the chamber, stop talking and while I'm talking. Before the gases fill the chamber, you see the thrust. It goes up. It doesn't have anything to do with how much gas is in the vacuum chamber. That thrust is from the ejection. That thrust is from the ejection of that mass. And you're ignoring this very simple. You're ignoring this very simple to understand property of mass in order to pretend that the Earth is flat.
If you were a doofus, because we all know that even before an ignition is reached, a lot of gallons of gas are released in a rocket engine. The gas starts flowing before, even a minute before the ignition is reached. So that chamber is already going to have enough atmospheric pressure for the rocket.
In the particular demonstration, that Silent Zero is recalling, and I can recall just as well. That demonstration.
I'm not done.
No. That demonstration does not. That demonstration does not. You're just issuing a straw man before I can even. That demonstration does not have any additional gases in the vacuum chamber before ignition. That ignition occurs while that vacuum. That ignition occurs. That ignition occurs while that vacuum chamber is still a vacuum.
You're just saying it ad hoc. You're
paranoid enough. You could do.
All right, guys, let Dream respond. Guys, let Dream respond. He hasn't had a chance to say anything without getting interrupted.
Response one: you don't know how rocket engines work. Rocket engines cannot work before gas is released. All right, there is no ignition before a gas has already escaped.
What about a solid rocket? What about a solid rocket?
Let him finish.
A solid rocket would be different. Also, these chambers. If you do the math of how much gas is expelled in a fraction of a second, even before the eye can notice, there's already going to be enough gases to create not full atmospheric pressure, I don't know, but sufficient atmospheric pressure for the rocket to start moving.
Absolutely not.
I would suggest you look at the demonstration again, because what happens is as soon as that engine is ignited, that plastic plug that was holding it closed is ejected. That very act right away is producing a thrust, a small one, and that thrust increases pretty rapidly before that gas can even get all the way to the other end of the chamber.
Well, can I make one comment about back to jet engines? Do you know what the pressure differential between the front of the engine and the back of the engine is? And this answers your question about whether you're pushing off air or not. Dreamer, do you know the difference between the pressure differential, meaning the pressure in the front of the engine versus the pressure in the back of the engine? Now, if what you're saying is true, there would be a lot of pressure differential because the air would be being pushed off of, right? But what do you think the pressure differential is between the front of the engine and the back of the engine of a jumbo jet 747? Take a guess. Pounds per square inch. Go ahead. Just take a wild guess. Would you say it's a lot, a little? You can say whatever, any value you want.
I don't know, 2,000 pounds. I don't know.
Okay, no, it's a quarter psi. It's almost nothing.
All right.
This shows that it's not the air you're pushing off of; it's the mass flow of the jet engine itself, with the fuel in the air being imparted a momentum being tossed out the back of the jet engine. That is what's causing the jet to move. It's not the air, because if the air was the cause, we wouldn't see only a scant quarter psi of pressure differential between the front of the
how do you measure that psi? Don't you measure it according to the surface area? Because the surface area of the back of the
because Zanuck is talking about static. Zanuck is talking about static pressure.
Why are you over talking? Why are you over talking me? Why over? I wasn't even finished. I'm not even 30 seconds. I can't even talk for 20 seconds. So the surface area of the back of a jet engine is very small ratio-wise compared to the front. So of course that if you don't take into consideration the change in the surface area, then you're not going to have a lot of difference.
Well, that works against your comment. So you had a high bypass 747 turbojet engine has the big huge 8-foot impellers, right? And in the back, they have a bypass area, and they have a jet exhaust area. And if you add up the surface areas, yeah, it's probably about half the size. So what? We're talking about a quarter of PSI difference. The pressure differential is nothing.
It's much less.
No, it's not. Go look it up.
No, it is because
the
cone. Wait. I don't agree with.
What's going on? You don't know anything. I'm telling you, the pressure differential.
I do know there is a cone.
Doesn't matter with the.
I do know there is a cone in the back of the engine, which makes the relative size much smaller than just half.
I'm talking about you put a pressure gauge in front of the engine.
You're just lying.
No, I'm not lying.
Stop
it. In back of the engine, anywhere you want to put the pressure gauge, you will measure a quarter of PSI difference. It's showing you that there's not any pressure pushing the aircraft forward. There's not a pressure difference. You need a pressure differential.
Well, that's not exactly accurate, Zanuck.
If you put the pressure gauge,
no, it's not, because you're talking about static pressure instead of dynamic pressure. So if you were to orient the pressure nozzle forward in the direction of the flow, you would have a higher pressure. That's how a pitot tube works.
You mentioned that before. You stop. You're being pedantic now. You are, because the front of the engine versus the back. That's what we're talking about. Not measuring inside.
What you said, you made a comment.
The pressure differential between the front of the engine and the back of the engine is about a quarter PSI. You can count.
No, you're just repeating your conclusion, even though I have objections. And you're just saying me I'm stupid. Don't object to what I say. You're stupid.
No, I am not, because if you had that.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
If you had that engine against the wall or something.
Dude, let me object. I have my objections. Ahead, I don't need you to make up my objections for.
I'm telling you, if you had a pressure, which was where the
air. I'm stupid. You're right. Yeah. Go repeat the conclusion again, Zanuck.
No, I'm saying I'm not going to repeat it at all. I'm saying if you had a pressure differential that was, like you said, tremendous, use it 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pounds. Obviously, there's 40,000 pounds of thrust coming out of these engines, right? We know that, right? 40,000. So why is there not more than a quarter PSI pressure differential statically, not moving?
Well, you gotta move through a medium first. Whenever you see something surface through the water, it goes up to water and then it skims the surface. And that's exactly analogous to looking at a rocket go up and then its gas goes out like it's skims pressurized surface. And it is optimal to operate in, just like a fish that is skimming the surface.
Lemon, it was Dreamy's turn. That's rude. Let him finish.
So, you said if you put a gouge, like, a pressure gouge in it, you're not going to see much of a difference. Yeah, of course you're not, because the pressure gouge is measuring completely two different areas with different surface area, and there is and also for your last point about
pressure is pounds per square inch. It's pressure over a known surface area.
You're being ridiculous. Dreamy, come on. You can do better than that. If we had
PSI is independent of area.
If you had the rocket against the wall or something where you could get compression.
But there is a setup. Can I finish my point? Zanuck, I'm not done. But there's a difference in the amount. I mean, there is a set amount of air for the system to suck. Obviously the same amount that the system sucks inside of it, it's the same amount of air that it expels. But jet engines also add fuel in order to increase the pressure. But the area in which the air is being sucked in is much greater. So if you want to measure just one single point of it, right? So of course there's not going to be a lot of difference. So
jet engines don't work by increasing pressure. They don't. Anything above static pressure that comes out the back is lost thrust. So you don't want to exceed the pressure in any the static pressure in any way whatsoever, because that's all lost thrust. Because that's air molecules traveling in a direction different from the direction that you want to go.
Right. All you're doing is you're just imparting a momentum to the air. You're imparting a momentum to that air.
They're trying to accelerate air molecules in one direction. That's the whole purpose of the rockets and jet engines.
By increasing their pressure. Maybe I'm not talking about static pressure. I don't know.
There's no static. There's very little static pressure. If you have a propeller,
maybe I'm not talking about static pressure, right? I don't know.
You don't know. That's why I'm trying to help you. Listen.
You're not even letting me finish.
That's my turn. It's my turn now. So now let's forget about the jet.
I was interrupted by your friend.
Stop it.
All right.
Now we have a propeller.
Zanik. Let Dreamily talk.
Yeah. So maybe I'm not talking about the right kind of pressure. I don't know, but I do know that jet engines, besides intaking air and expelling air out, they're also adding a mixed fuel into the air, which creates a sort of expansion of the gases, which create pressures, which then allows for the blades and the structure of the engine to direct the flow of this now expanded air, which has an increase in pressure in a one vector to create a sufficient thrust forward. All right, don't call me stupid on that, because I'm not wrong on that. So maybe
you
that's
are wrong, and I'll tell you why.
Let him respond, Dreamily.
I think he is on the right page here, Zanik. I think he's understanding that it's not the static pressure that's going up.
You're using that term static pressure, and I think you're using it incorrectly for him. And he's using it incorrectly as well. We're imparting a negative momentum, a momentum in the air itself. And yes, is there a pressure differential between the top of the blades, the surface area, the airfoils, and the bottom? Yes, it's very, very small. The net pressure differential between the front of the engine and the back of the engine is very small, meaning that all we're doing is imparting the momentum. And as Jake mentioned earlier, we are trying to get at least pressure differential as possible from the front to the back, because that's efficiency loss. We want to just accelerate the mass. And so, yeah, very little fuel compared to the air. It's a mass flow device. We're trying to get mass in and out of the system, and that change of momentum is what provides the thrust, not pushing off anything out the back of the engine. There's nothing being pushed off in the back of the engine. Now, my point earlier was that if you back that engine up to a brick wall and then turn the jets full power, you could get a rise of pressure between the wall and the engine. And that would be also very small, but it would produce additional thrust. But once that wall is gone, that thrust, due to the air being pushed off of, is gone. That pressure is now not there anymore. That's the only way you could get the air to push the airplane, is if you were somehow able to have a wall of air, like a brick wall of it, where it could actually create a pressure.
Yeah, so
you're wrong about that.
Let me just add one thing that hadn't been mentioned. You know how high velocity fluid is at a lower pressure. So if you're like you said, they're adding fuel and combusting that expands the volume of the air. So that could do one of two things. That could increase the pressure, or you could increase the velocity. And that's what they're doing. They're increasing the velocity of the gases.
Yes, because
without increasing the pressure.
Because there is a room for that pressure to expand into, so immediately it would result in higher speed.
Well, it's moving faster. It's at a lower pressure than if
can I finish?
Yeah, you got it backward. Yeah, exactly. You made a great point. It goes.
No, I didn't get it backwards. I get it correctly right.
No, you got it backwards.
All right, respond for me. Come on, please. Yes, thank you. And by the way, Zanik, I will say my mind here. I think you are being completely deceitful and dishonest, and I'll tell you why. Because I'll admit, when it comes to technical matters, to the technical jargon, you know way more.
Clueless.
But when it comes to, understanding basically the gist of it. I understand the gist of it, pretty right. And your friend, and you, yes, yes, your friend admitted it. That I know the gist of it. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! So
forget Zanuck and respond to the point.
So
look, you're
what was okay? The point I was going to make is this. At the end of the day, you do need for this work for this engine to work sufficiently. You do need a big area for intake and as small as possible area of expelling the gas. I'll tell you why is that. Because if you take a brick and you put it on a balloon, the balloon is probably not going to pop. But if you take a needle and you're able to concentrate the pressure, maybe I'm using the wrong term, but intuitively, conventionally, in layman terms, what I mean when I say pressure, right? You want to condense it to as smallest point as possible to create the most efficient amount of thrust.
If that's the case, hold on, Zanuck.
What? Can I tell you why?
This is an easy debunk for him. When the afterburner is ignited on a jet, do the feathers open up, or do they close down and choke it down more?
Yeah, that's a great one, but it's getting more complicated.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they open up.
Which is the opposite of what you said, which is they want to make it as small as possible.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's not necessarily so.
One sentence, Dreamy.
No, you cannot. I want to respond to this guy.
I let you talk.
No.
Let me respond.
He tried to debunk me, not you, Zanuck. He tried to debunk me, not you, Zanuck.
Respond to Jake, Zanuck.
Let me respond, Dreamy. So actually, in the engine, what they're trying to do, they step down these impellers so that the diameters are very small relative to the nose, and what that does, it speeds up the velocity at a loss of the pressure. The pressure gets reduced and the speeds increase. That's how we increase mass flow through the engine. So it's opposite. It's not intuitive to you. You're absolutely upside down.
Wait. Okay. Let's say that we take an engine.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I heard what you said, and I'm responding.
Agree that we're accelerating the mass in the engine by the different stages of this turbine, which actually lowers the pressure. It lowers the pressure and increases the velocity.
Dude, you're so stupid, and I'll tell you why. Because you're so engrossed with your stupid technical jargon that you can't even understand that I, as a layperson, I intuitively understand what you say, but you just shut up. And I'll explain to you why.
Just so you know, aerodynamics is not intuitive. People argue over it for centuries. There's nothing intuitive about aerodynamics.
I was just about to make my example. Please let me do it. So if you take a jet engine, right, and let's say you seal the back end, right, you have a seal, nothing can escape, and you activate the engine, you do the same processes, you inject it with the fuel. What happens? Does pressure increase or decrease?
If you could get it to run, it would increase. Like it's like putting. It's like putting. Hold on. Let me get the full answer. Let me get the full answer. Hold on. If you put a cover over the back of a fan, that's called static pressure max. So you have an axial flow fan like in your computer, and you put your hand over it, you will increase the pressure. No airflow, and you will have some pressure. But that's the only time it makes pressure. Axial flow fans do not make pressure when they're left to their own druthers. When they're left open to move air, the pressure is very low. In fact, at max flow, it's extremely low. It's almost zero, like Jake was saying earlier.
All right. So
you're wrong. Upside down wrong.
Well, I think you should clarify on your question. We're trying to clarify your question. Were you talking about in the engine or after the outlet?
I'm the only one arguing for my position. It is only fair that I'm allowed to respond after each and every one.
Well, that's why we asked you a question to clarify your position. When you're talking about restricting the engine, are you talking about the pressure in the engine or the pressure of the stream of exhaust on the outside of the engine?
You guys are driving this guy nuts, man. This isn't even cool.
He wants to put a cover over the back of the engine is what he wants.
So Zanuck, all right. Now when we remove the cover and the pressure can escape, what happens, right? The potential pressure, let's call it now, potential pressure, because I'm a layperson. Stop trying to confuse me with your stupid jargon, because evidently I still get what happens, right? The potential pressure converts immediately into velocity, right? Because now there is a place for what potentially could be pressure to escape to. So it becomes velocity, right? And so this velocity is now allowing for a momentum and a thrust forward. But
that's right.
That's right. No, let me finish. So it happens that I, as a layperson, when I said pressure, right? You could have immediately understood what I meant. All right. No, you chose. No, let me finish. You chose to be a sophist asshole and try to mix me and bullshit me with. Oh no, you're not getting it because what's the opposite of dynamic? Static pressure. There is no static pressure. Dude, you totally got what I meant to say.
I didn't mention that at all.
No, you had to go and try to bullshit me with your technical jargon. No, you're stupid. You don't know what's going on. There's no dynamic pressure. Go fuck yourself, Zanik. Really, fuck yourself.
I said there's no pressure differential between the front and the back of the engine, and Jake backed it up as well. He said that would make it less efficient, and he's right. The greater the pressure differential, the less efficient the motor.
These rockets look like a fish skipper coming to the top of the pond and going over the surface. It looks like you're going from an optimal medium that's down here to a less optimal medium that it's skating across toward the top. That's why these rockets curve out as they go higher and higher over the flat Earth toward a less optimal, more evacuated.
It's playtime now. There's no more serious discussion. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, at the end of the day, they are using potential pressure and convergence.
No, you're making up terms now. You're just making things up, but you were not too far off.
I'm just simplifying it.
Well, I mean, he is right there, Zanik. I think he is on the right page here.
No, he's not right.
No, he's not. Potential pressure.
Potential pressure is not.
Well, I think what he's talking about is if you can, the more pressure, like in a rocket engine in the combustion chamber, the higher your combustion chamber pressure, the greater your capability to accelerate the mass through the nozzle, right?
That's not what he's talking about, though. He was talking. See, you and I were talking about what pressures are being generated inside the engine, which is tremendous pressures on those impeller blades. But at the resultant thrust, though, is high velocity, low pressure. So
but it does use the right pressure to reach the velocity.
No, when the mass is ejected, it has been accelerated due to other things inside the engine. We don't have to get into the combustion areas. Let's just talk about what's expelled from the engine. What's expelled from the engine is very high velocity, low pressure mass. And that mass flow, that change in momentum of the mass that entered the engine, very little of it is fuel, by the way. Very little of it. That's why they call it a high bypass engine. Some areas.
Now you're just trying to impress me with your further anecdotal.
No, it's not high technology. Little kids know high bypass engines.
You say high technology. I said anecdotal.
It's not anecdotal.
Yes, it is. It has nothing to do with it. You're talking about gas. I don't care. We're talking about the amount of gas.
The air moving. So think about the high bypass part of it. The part that's going the outer diameters of that engine are like a propeller. It's basically like a ducted fan. And the inner part is the turbojet, which has a more concentrated flow. But inside, there's all sorts of pressure differentials, but the net comes out at a very high velocity. And based on the mass and the velocity, hold on, I'm almost done. Based on the mass and the velocity of just the center of the engine, we can determine how much thrust is produced by the center. In a high bypass engine, most of the thrust is developed on the outer part that doesn't go through the engine. It just goes by the propeller blades. It's a ducted fan. That's 75% of the engine's thrust are produced by those big blades that are going on the outside of the motor of the engine itself. So you're wrong on every level.
All right. So the reason that there is low pressure velocity of the gas being expelled is because of the manipulation of pressure.
I won't argue with that. Yeah, throughout the engine, there's manipulation of pressure. There's varying pressures in that engine. I agree.
In order to create a sufficient pin, right? A very small amount of pin that would push the air outwards in a very sufficient way. That's why it has to be directed, just like a pin and a balloon.
No, it's not. Why don't you do this?
A Greek would not break the balloon. A pin would.
Go look up turbojet engine. Just do a search, Google search turbojet engine, and just how they work, and then come back. Because right now you're completely clueless.
Yeah. So I think the misconception here is you think that the smaller the nozzle, the better. But really, the purpose of the nozzle is to direct the airflow to be all in one direction. If your nozzle is sufficient, you want your nozzle as big as possible that converts 100% of any static pressure so that it all goes in one, so that your mass flow all goes in one direction. If you start constricting the nozzle after that, then you'll actually start losing thrust because now you have less mass flow going through the nozzle, right? So once your nozzle, the perfect rocket nozzle directs 100% of the molecules of the exhaust in one direction. Once you've already accomplished that, then you don't want it any smaller, because any smaller will limit how much you can push through that nozzle.
But that's on a rocket.
All right.
A rocket nozzle.
Wait, but that's engineering. That's like engineering, give or take. Zanik, sorry. No, I'm the only one defending my position here, Zanik. I get to talk after each and every one of you. So,
no, that's not how it works.
Yes, it does.
No, you're talking.
If I'm talking, it does.
I think that's fair.
What? That he speaks 50% of the time. That's fair.
Yeah. I'm the only one defending my position.
Why not?
I want to speak 50% of the time.
Defend my position.
Your own position.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of different people arguing that nobody else agrees with, and then you can.
Right. It makes sense that
it's enough that he doesn't.
Two sides, 50-50.
He responds to his point against him.
Yeah. I probably prioritize Dreamily because he's an independent.
Dreamy, go ahead, go away. We'll let you talk 50% of the time.
Well, think of it as positive discrimination, which we need in this room if we're going to keep it going. So go ahead, Dreamily.
He's outnumbered. I agree.
I love hearing Dreamily speak because he's an independent thinker. Zanik, I hear the same old bullshit from. So I prioritize the new speakers.
So yeah, you were saying that you want to get all flowing in one direction, but once you get it to, you're right, because it does have to be with engineering. In engineering, there is give and take. You want to maximize the ability of the material to withstand pressure. So you have to, limit your system. Yes, I know that's engineering, but ideally, you would want that one direction to be as concentrated as possible. You would want that. Yeah, your materials do not allow it because then you will have loss of energy and stuff. So you have to make concessions. I know. That's why when we talked about afterburner effect, I said they open up. The reason they open up is because you do want the energy, the more energy that you get out of that massive, really fast afterburner, but the nozzle or the wings of that cannot withstand that pressure, so they have to concede a little bit and open up, right?
Well, if you want
but it's still
the
point that
if you want to talk about it,
concentrated as possible.
If you want to talk about ideals, then the ideal
Jake,
rocket engine in just a sec. If you want to talk about ideals, then the ideal rocket engine in space is infinitely large and infinitely.
We're not talking about space now. We're talking.
Well, yeah, that's why he shouldn't. So let me, Jake.
I think Jake would be the best person.
Jake mentioned the direction for the nozzle. That's only for rocket engines. In the jet engines have a convergence which actually accelerates the air, which gives you which gives you more thrust. It's a whole different concept. A rocket engine versus the back end and why things converge into a. It's not to direct the thrust. It's actually to increase the velocity and get more thrust out of the engine.
When you whistle with your mouth, the fastest air will come out when the hole that you make with your lips is small. It's just physics. The bigger the pressure, the higher velocity in which
why wouldn't the jet engines have a pinhole then? Why wouldn't 747s come out through a pinhole? That you say?
Well, because then we have the weakness of the material, right?
No,
maybe the material cannot withstand that, and it will break.
That's not it at all. There's actually an optimum size for the size of the engine that you're going to want to converge. And I have the ratio. I've studied this shit for many years. I forgot almost all of it. But I can bring the books out right now and give you the optimum percentage. Stop it. I can give you the optimum ratios for whatever thrust you're producing, what that convergent ratio would be. And it's not a pinhole, and it's not structurally limited. It's limited by angles and aerodynamics that are known by everybody but you in this field.
Fluid dynamics, yeah.
Well, it's aerodynamics and fluid dynamics, yes.
Venturi effect is fluid dynamics.
Correct.
So what he's saying is accurate.
No.
Yeah.
No, you don't. The smaller you make it,
more pressure.
No.
Stuff passing through.
No. You don't get. So if you have a given
balance between quality and quantity.
No, you don't just keep on narrowing the neck down to get higher velocities and think that's
what I'm
the
saying.
answer.
You have to find a balance.
You will have efficiency losses, and there's an optimum shape based on the mass flow and the power of that engine to be able to converge that airflow to get the maximum amount of thrust.
Wait. No, the reason why you say it's correct, the reason it is correct is not because they don't seek to maximize the pressure any further by concentrating the pin anymore. No, let me finish. It's because that when you're working with fluid or gas dynamics, right? Air acts like, it has momentum. If you give it a too sharp of a corner to make, it's going to lose all its momentum that it had. So you need the structure to be fluid and not have too many sharp corners for the air to lose its momentum around.
That's a non sequitur. You're not even talking about that.
No, it's not. It's 100% the reason they're doing it.
We're talking about how these. Why do you think they have smaller and smaller compressor blades as it gets toward the burners? Why does it do that?
Because that's how they add the pressure, and that's how they direct it also toward the direction they want it to go.
Great. And what happens to the turbine section when it's exiting the compressor in the burner section? What do they look like? Do they converge or diverge? Intuitively, as you think.
Converge.
You sure? Why don't you look up like I said, do yourself a favor, go Google turbojet and see what it looks like. It'll make sense. The convergence is done to finely tune this engine to be most efficient and get the max amount of thrust by accelerating the mass that's in those chambers. And they do that two ways: by the compressor and by the burners, by burning the fuel, and by the turbine section itself. All these accentuate and make possible the thrust that this engine produces.
So was he right when he said converge?
It's not intuitive. I'll give you that. But
don't try to converge or diverge. What's correct?
Intuitive, but I'm just breaking you down using layman terms, Anik. That's what I've been doing for the past 20 years.
What was the answer? Was it diverge or was it converge?
Stop it.
Yeah. I think what will shock him is that actually, and you may not know this either, is that that the pressure is actually lower in the combustion chamber of the jet engine than it is at the entrance of the compressor, or the exit of the compressor, I mean.
Of course.
He probably thinks the pressure goes up in the combustion chamber. In reality, it goes down.
Right. That's your point.
That's a very common misconception. That's not intuitive at all. Because you think of it like a piston engine, right? Where you have the combustion, so you have this high pressure that drives the piston down. But that's not the way a jet engine works. The pressure is actually lower in the combustion chamber.
Yeah, because it doesn't have a piston to push on. It is immediately forced to escape into the next chamber, which then it is eventually at the end of the process. Even though you have much more steps between the combustion and the piston, here your piston ends up to being the air outside of the engine.
Exactly.
So you have a lot of steps on the way. I know. That's why you would have decreased some pressure, because it already has somewhere to escape to. Whereas into a piston in a car, it doesn't have that metal piston to push on. No, in a jet engine, there's the next chamber. It already escaped. So, of course, I know there will be a drop of pressure.
Well, Brain Drainery put a caption at 2:00 of a jet engine that's ideally, spaced to give you thrust. It needs to be ideally spaced so that the escaping gas does work on the medium. Otherwise, it just fills the medium and does little to no work. That's the point. In the vacuum, there is no medium.
Can you see the picture I posted?
Medium. The rocket doesn't do any sort of optimal
Can you see the picture I posted?